on YouTube. If you're so far liking the content that I'm putting up, then please subscribe and follow. So today I'm going to have a quick chat about some of the things that have been going on with State of Decay 2 whilst I've been playing it. On my second playthrough now. Completed the first playthrough probably in about 60-17 hours worth of play. And on the whole, it's been a fun experience. Most of it has been through multiplayer. I've had at least one friend joining me, which has made it a little bit more interesting. But from what I can see, there are a few drawbacks. I'll start off with saying I'm playing on the Xbox One S, 1GB version, and using a Samsung 4K TV. Now, I've seen how it looks on the Xbox One, the original Xbox One, and whilst it does look a little bit better on the One S, the graphics are pretty horrendous in comparison to what you would probably be expecting for an Xbox One game. Now, when I say horrendous, I mean you've obviously seen some of the gameplay, but when you look closely, there's a lot of bleeding between your character and the screen. Grass, terrain, everything else looks absolutely terrible and is quite blocky and pixelated. You've also got the issue with the join between the grass verge and the road. That it becomes very pixelated, and all of this is compounded quite badly when you add in darkness. You know, I mean, you can see there how pixelated that gets. There's also quite a bit of motion blur, as you can see, which doesn't really help matters. Now, you know, don't get me wrong, I know I'm playing on the Xbox One S and it's not a One X, because I'll be honest, I've had a quick look at it on the One X, and there is a significant improvement in the crispness of the graphics, which is a bit unfortunate. You know, is there that much of a jump between the One S and the X? Well, if you look at this, then I would say yes, yes there is, but it is what it is. There's been a few other issues where in multiplayer things don't show up as well as they would do on single player. So some of the lighting will show up on mine, but it won't show up on my friends, and vice versa. Also, sometimes you'll have problems with the torches. They'll be flickering, things like that, which, you know, it shouldn't really be happening. So yeah, so that's sort of my impression of graphics side of the game. You know, it's not any improvement. It's not any improvement over the original State of Decay at all, in my opinion, graphically. Which is unfortunate considering we're 2 years down the line, maybe even more from the original. So, as I said, I've been playing mostly multiplayer, and some of the things that I found wrong with the multiplayer side of things is that, you know, you're getting quite a bit of rubber banding, particularly when you're travelling in separate vehicles, which, you know, it can happen quite often. Yes, you've got the tethering effect of, you know, whether it's 300 to 400 meters or whatever. That's not a big issue, to be honest. But there's a significant amount of rubber banding in that you could be in two separate cars and you'll be bouncing around all over the place. You won't really be able to control the car because it's hard to figure out where the car's going to end up because of that rubber banding. We've also had several issues where the supply locker, whether it's in an outpost or in your main base, will often disappear for the person who's joining the game. This can obviously be remedied by, you know, logging out and logging back in again, but it, you know, you wouldn't expect that to be an issue in the game that is on release. You know, I mean, these are bugs that should have been worked out a long time ago before it got anywhere near release. So it's a bit unfortunate that you've got those things. We've also had things like when you go out in your vehicles, you'll park them up, you'll explore an area, you'll use the vehicle then as your drop-off point to drop any of your heavier loot in, which is good. You know, I mean, that's obviously a help and an improvement over the previous version when the game first came out. But what will sometimes happen is that the icon that you've got on the map for the vehicle will disappear. So unless you actually remembered where you left the vehicle, it means that you've got to do a considerable amount of searching to find the vehicle again. I may just be unlucky, and this, you know, may just be a slight of an issue, but it always seems to happen at night. Which, of course, when the zombies become more aggressive, makes it a little bit harder to deal with when you're perhaps running low on health, bandages, etc. Because you've been on a run, you're ready to return to base, and surprise, you don't know where your vehicle is because it's not showing on the map anymore. Again, one of the other issues is we've experienced with bases is that the facilities won't always show up. So you'll have various stuff built within your base, but to the player joining your game, they won't see any of that, which is a little bit disappointing. I mean, obviously it doesn't really affect the gameplay that much, but it kind of spoils the immersion factor of the game. Coupled with that, then you'll sometimes get it where doors will seem open like this, but you won't be able to get through them because actually they're closed, and you then have to close them and reopen them again. It's a pain in the bum, and again, it's a minor thing, but it's an annoyance and an immersion factor breaker for me. And some of the other issues now, obviously, I mentioned storage lockers before. Not so much now with the aspect of them not appearing. This is more, and to be honest, it only affects once you start to get a bit further into the game, when you start to pick up a lot of weapons and a lot of ammo. When it does the menu like this for your weapons, as you can see, you go on the weapon, it highlights the ammo that it uses, which is great. You know, it's a lovely addition. But because they've got firearms and ammo in the same box, what happens is as your inventory builds up, eventually the ammo won't be on the same page as the firearm, which means then you've got to go searching through each individual bullet to figure out which type you need for the gun that you've picked up. So it just makes it a little bit longer in selecting bits and pieces that you want out of your inventory from the supply locker. See, like, we've got a situation there where now we're on page 2 essentially. So if I pick that gun, you can't tell which ammo it is. That one you can see because there's 4 bullets there. That one you can see. 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 But as you get more and more firearms in your supply locker, it makes it harder to actually spot where the actual ammo is for it. So you've got to do a bit of searching around, which is a pain in the bum, to be honest. Okay, now it may be me reminiscing over State of Decay 1, but when I saw a horde on a map in State of Decay 1, I'd be worried. I would be planning which way I'd be driving, which way I would be running, just to make sure that if, for whatever reason, the car was stopped or I got cornered, I wouldn't have an escape plan. Because the hordes were things to be feared, essentially, especially as a starting character, and especially in the evenings. But on State of Decay 2, not so much. You know, and the dictionary definition of a horde is a large group of people. Yet, the amount of times that I've seen a horde on the map, driven past it, and it'll be 2 zombies, 3 zombies, maybe 4 at most. It seems to be a rare occurrence where there's more than that, and I think that they've made that way too easy to deal with, way too easy, and it becomes so that hordes are only a problem if you've literally run out of ammo and perhaps your melee weapon isn't in a good enough state to be able to deal with them. And it shouldn't be like that, you know. The hordes are there to be more than just a little bit of a nuisance, because now they're not even becoming that, which again, like I said, is a little bit disappointing in comparison to the first one. Now, one of the other issues I've found to be quite annoying is that there seems to be quite a disparity between the reload times on some of the weapons. I'll give you an example. There's a 2.2 rifle I've picked up. I think this is the one here. Preppers 10, 22. It's got low caliber scout rifle, seemingly kitted out for budget survival scenarios, with a hunting scope, hair trigger, handmade suppressor, and thoroughly illegal drum magazine. It's a drum magazine. Who is in the title? Magazine. It's not individually fed. It's, you know, it should be reasonably quick to switch out and place another magazine in. It's not. It's absolutely ridiculous. It literally takes about 20 to 30 seconds to actually load the drum magazine onto it. Absolutely ridiculous. And it doesn't matter what your skill level is. I mean, this was... I noticed it first of all with my one character who's got maxed out firearms and maxed out assault, I think it is, speciality. And it still took a good 20 to 30 seconds. Now, you find me a gun with a magazine that takes 20 to 30 seconds to load, and I will call bullshit. It's simple as that. So that's one of the other complaints that I've got. Now, my friend who I'm playing with is pointing something out to me on the modifications that you can have. On each one of these base units that you've got, you can actually modify. So if I show you the base, so for example, you've got this and you've got a modification. So each base has the ability to do that modification. As you can see here, I've got, you know, portable generator, free weights, cleaning station, ammo press. So they all do various different things, and some of them can be installed on multiple different units. Now, what he has noticed is that when you install something like a portable generator, to use that generator requires fuel, which, you know, makes perfect sense. It's a fuel-based generator, so why wouldn't it? But there's also other generators in the game, one of which is a bicycle. So essentially it's a human-powered generator. But yet, when installed and used, actually required fuel, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And it certainly didn't make a lot of sense to him either, but the concern is, and like I said, I haven't tested this yet, but it's something that I'm definitely going to have a look into, is that essentially each modification is a type rather than an individual modification. So if it's a power generator of whatever sorts, it will require fuel, which is a bit of a disappointment, because kind of what it shows is that it's not as modifiable as you're being led to believe. Now, like I said, I haven't tested this yet, and I've only seen this occur on his game, so if I ever get to the point where I've got these modifications at the same time, then I'll give it a go and see if that is the case. But I'd be a bit disappointed if that has happened, because it's kind of portrayed that each modification is an individual thing, and that it does something specific rather than being a catch-all and it being, say, oh, it's a generator, for example. Anyway, I hope that has given you a bit of a taster of some of the problems that I've faced whilst playing the game. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a good few days whilst I've had it, you know. And like I said, I'm on my second playthrough. I wouldn't say there are any particular issues that would stop me from playing it. There's some that detract from the game, but it certainly wouldn't put me off paying $24.99 for this sort of game, you know. I think that it's, for the amount of money you're paying, you're getting a heck of a lot of game, and you know there's a lot of replayability with it as well. I mean, yeah, you're doing the same thing, but there's different legacy quests that you've got to complete and the likes. So, you know, if you are considering picking it up, I would definitely suggest it's worthwhile. If you've got the One X, obviously you will benefit from the vastly improved graphics over the One S and the One. But I even still, I wouldn't let the graphics put you off too much. And to be honest, you only really notice the graphical issues with multiplayer more than anything else. I just don't think it copes very well with two people playing at the same time. Or more. I've not tried it with more than two at the moment, but obviously you can play with up to 4 players, which will be interesting to see, obviously. But like I said, if you're considering picking it up, I would definitely say it's worthwhile. For $24.99, it's a bargain. You know, it's not No Man's Sky where you're paying 50 quid and there's no content or no multiplayer. It's not Sea of Thieves where there's good multiplayer but there's no content. You're getting a bit of both. You're getting good content. You're getting a multiplayer aspect to the game, albeit not a perfect one. So it's well worth spending that sort of money on it, without a shadow of a doubt. Could it be improved on? Yeah, of course it could. You know, there's a lot more in my mind that they could have done with this, but it is what it is, and it is an improvement over the first one. And the fact that they've added the multiplayer aspect into it, it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that in the future, because I doubt that State of Decay 2 will be the end of the State of Decay franchise somehow. I think, you know, next we're probably looking at the sort of massively multiplayer online aspect to it, maybe. Possibly a la The Division, that sort of way of playing. But we'll have to wait and see. At the moment, I'm continuing to enjoy it, and we'll carry on playing it for the foreseeable future. Anyway, I hope that the video's been helpful for you. Any questions, please add them in the comments below. Otherwise, like I said, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, click follow, and click the little bell to subscribe. Anyway, hope you have a good day. Take care.